So I'm doing the pros of animal cloning, and most people know about disagreements in cloning. However, the advantages prevail over the many disadvantages. Animal cloning can set a precedent for future generations and possibly lead to the cloning of humans. Okay, so this is like the overview on what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to do organ transplants, and within that, certain types of animals that can be used for the transplants, such as Xena the pig. Then I'm doing cell transplants, and that can help cure diseases. And then animal breeding, protecting animals from animal testing. And then three of the most well-known cloned animals. Okay. So first I'm doing organ transplants. And in 2009, more than 100,000 people were on the transplant list, but very few people got their transplants, as you can see, like 28,000. And a potential way to get organs for these transplants is by using genetically modified pigs and for their organs. And this could save thousands of lives. This is called xenotransplantation. It's when you take an organ from one species and transfer it into another species. And normally human immune systems would launch an assault on the pig organs, so the organs would have to be altered immunologically. Their makeup would have to be. So this is my example, Xena the pig. She's a black Chinese Mexican pig, and she was cloned from fetal skin cells, and she was born July 2nd, 2000. She lived until 2009, and she just died of natural causes. She was actually very healthy, one of the most successful pig clones, and she was a big step towards creating genetically modified pigs. And this is just an example of how organs can be used for transplantation to humans. People say that primates would be a better match for humans because that's where we originate from, but actually pigs have a lot of similar organs that we have, such as the lungs, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, and many more. Next, I'm doing cell transplantation. And many diseases can be treated by the transplantation of genetically altered cells from animals such as pigs. And then there's just a list of three of the main diseases that can be cured. And so we have Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and Huntington's. And this is just what they are. Parkinson's is a degenerative disorder of the central nervous system characterized by tremor and impaired muscular coordination. Alzheimer's, and that is a progressive form of pre-senile dementia that is similar to senile dementia. The first symptoms are impaired memory, which is followed by impaired thought and speech, and finally complete helplessness. And then last we have Huntington's. And it's a progressive neurodegenerative genetic disorder which affects muscle coordination and some congenitive functions. So as you can see, these are all caused by the death of specific cells in the brain, and by transplanting fetal pigs' brain cells into patients, into their brains, the diseases could be cured or just altered completely. Next, we have animal breeding. And animal breeding, this is kind of like what Aiden was talking about, and there's a major drawback in regular animal breeding, and it's because there's an uncertainty of the genetic outcome. So cloning sidesteps the genetic gamble in breeding, and also allows the creation of exact duplicates. Using cloning to breed would mean better animals and less rejected, sick, or deformed offspring, as with just having two animals mate and produce and have, like, I'm not unsure if it's going to be messed up or what. And cloning perfect animals can easily transfer over into the food industry, and that's because the meat can be a lot healthier, as you were saying, and the FDA has been testing this, but it's not like on the market yet. It's not as common. So this is the meat, and as you can see, you can't really tell the difference between cloned, non-cloned, and like you don't know if that's either one. So it's not a big difference between what the meat looks like or how it tastes. So it's actually pretty healthy. And livestock cloning is one of the most recent advantages in selective assisted breeding in animal husbandry. And cloning is a new breeding method that does not manipulate the animal's genetic makeup or change the animal's DNA. It's just another sophisticated form of assisted reproduction. And it's also a reliable way to maintain high-quality meat and healthy livestock. And this can transfer over into the world hunger issue. Because of the shortage of food in the world, breeding these clones could lead to solving the issue of it. And with the bounty of meat, it could be shipped to hundreds of countries that cannot provide enough food for their people. And cloning animals benefits the whole world, not just certain individuals, as some people think. Next, we have animal testing. Animal cloning can help prevent the constant risks of animals being tested. There are many adverse effects of animal testing that innocent animals have to endure during experiments. Once a lab test is done on an animal, it will be standardized and fixed for rats with the same genetic features. So let's see a little bit. Less animals will have to suffer, and this is an example. Battery hens. They're kept in cages so small they cannot turn around, and cloning wouldn't do anything to make these animals worse off than they already are. And if one genetically modified, this is an example, if one genetically modified rat could have an exact, correct experiment, it would prevent hundreds of other rats from suffering for an answer. And it's not saying that cloning is any less painful, but there's a greater success rate than just killing off random animals hundreds of times, when you could have a genetically modified animal and get the correct answer from an experiment the first time. Next is cloned animals. And this is a list of a couple of the animals that have been cloned. Carp, cat, deer, dog, horse, mice, rabbit, pig, sheep, and there's 10 more. But most famous are probably the sheep, dog, and a horse. And these cloned animals could help the future of animal cloning by getting the word out that cloning exists and is actually more common than you think. Because many people think it's a foreign concept, but it's actually really common. So first I'm going to start with Dolly the ewe, and she's a sheep. She's probably one of the world's most famous clones, and she was cloned from an adult cell, a somatic cell, and she was born July 5th, 1996. She was the only lamb born from 227 attempts, but she was euthanized February 2003 because of her arthritis, which was pretty bad. But she was very successful. Next we have Snuppy the dog, and Snuppy is an Afghan hound, and it took 2,000 eggs and 1,000 embryos, and he was born in 2005. And he was also cloned from an adult cell, adult male. And there was a controversy with this example of cloning because the person who cloned him was Huang Hu Son, and he faked some of his research, and it was a big controversy because they were unsure whether he was a real clone or not, but they investigated a little more and found out that he was an actual clone. Last we have Sapphire the horse. And Sapphire was cloned from an Olympic horse jumper, Sapphire also. And because the original horse was not able to reproduce and they really wanted to have another champion horse, so they just cloned her. The replica farms is what cloned them, and it's really big in the horse industry. It's like kind of up and coming, and they clone horses. And it's not really well known. It's pretty well known about the horse industry though. And this is one of the most recent clones because he was cloned and they realized this in 2009. That's when the word got out about everything. Okay. The end.